What if the biggest enemy holding you back is you? What if greatness isn't something to find out there but something to fight for inside yourself every single day? And what if mastering your mind is the real battle that separates the ordinary from the unstoppable? The greatest battle you'll ever face in this life isn't with someone outside of you, it's with the version of you that wants to take the easy way out. It's the weak, impulsive, fearful, and undisciplined self that quietly whispers in your ear, tempting you to choose comfort over growth. This isn't just some occasional inner conflict. It's a full-scale war. A war between the person you are right now and the person you have the potential to become. The Stoics knew this internal war intimately. They gave it a name: the fight for self-mastery. They called it the battle against self-deception, the daily discipline of taming your own mind. Every single morning, two versions of you wake up. One craves ease, distraction, and pleasure. The other reaches for purpose, discipline, and greatness. One part of you is full of excuses. The other takes responsibility. One part hides. The other steps forward. One is fragile. The other is forged in fire. And every day, without fail, you must choose. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, not after things settle down. Today. Because if you don't kill that weak version of yourself, it will quietly destroy you. It will drag you into a life of mediocrity where fear rules your choices. Comfort cripples your ambition, and your potential dies in silence. This is Stoicism, not just philosophy, but a call to arms. You are not here to be controlled by fleeting emotions, toxic habits, or empty temptations. You're here to overcome them, to rise above them, and that takes courage, not the kind of courage that shows up in grand moments, but the kind that shows up every single day when no one is watching. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It asks you to let go of your illusions, that you'll get another chance, that you have more time, that your excuses are valid. It demands you burn away your self-pity, face your truths, and build something far stronger than motivation, discipline. To the Stoics, a powerful mind was not born from comfort. It was built through challenge, through pain, through honest self-reflection. They believed in shaping a soul that could not be broken and a character that could not be shaken no matter what storms arrived. So if you're truly ready to stop lying to yourself, ready to silence the part of you that always wants to delay, ready to kill the weak version of you, then let's begin. Chapter 1. The Death of Excuses. Because excuses are the fuel of your weaker self, and until you cut off their supply, that part of you will never stop winning. You've just declared war on your excuses. Now it's time to act like it. Because the moment you let one excuse slip by, you hand power back to the weak version of yourself, the one you're trying to eliminate. That weakness doesn't just slow you down, it suffocates any ambition you once had. And if you don't shut it down fast, it will crawl its way back into your decisions, your routines, and your mindset. To kill that version of yourself, you must develop a zero-tolerance policy toward excuses. Not a mild annoyance, not selective discipline, relentless intolerance. That means you don't entertain laziness. You don't argue with hesitation. You move before doubt even has a chance to take shape. Don't negotiate with weakness. Don't talk it through. Don't try to reason with it. Crush it with action. The moment you hear that inner voice whispering, "I don't feel like it," move. If you're about to put something off, that is your exact signal to do it immediately. If your mind says, "maybe later," your body should already be in motion. Strength is not built in comfortable moments. It's forged in the exact second weakness knocks and you slam the door in its face. You kill excuses by replacing every thought of resistance with immediate action. Start conditioning yourself to recognize the very moment an excuse enters your mind and meet it with movement. For example, when you say, "I don't feel like working out," drop to the ground and do 10 push-ups. Not later, now. Every moment of hesitation strengthens the grip of mediocrity. Every second of inaction tightens the chains. You must treat excuses like a personal enemy. Not with tolerance, with aggression. Action is the antidote. The Stoics were warriors of the mind. They didn't wait to feel motivated, they commanded themselves into motion. They understood. Discipline is not something you wait to feel. It's a rule you obey. A true Stoic doesn't ask, "Do I feel like it?" He asks, "What must be done?" And then he does it. To destroy your excuses, build a system where your natural response is always action. Train your body to move the moment hesitation appears. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until it feels right. There is no perfect time. The time is now. The weak self delays. The strong self decides. When your alarm rings, get up. No snooze. No mental debate. Train your mind to listen to your command instantly. Because that first choice, that first action, it sets the tone for everything that follows. Each time you hit snooze, you tell your brain it's okay to delay. You condition yourself to hesitate in everything else. But when you rise immediately, without argument, you train decisiveness. You reinforce courage. You build character. So tomorrow morning, when that alarm buzzes, don't roll over. Don't lie there negotiating with your inner weakness. Sit up, move, conquer. Better yet, build a ritual that jump-starts your discipline. As soon as your feet hit the floor, do something hard. Make your bed without delay. Stretch. Breathe deeply, drop for push-ups, or shock your system with a cold shower. Whatever it is, do it with energy. Let your body drag your mind into discipline. This isn't just about waking up, it's about how you show up. It's about training a reflex that says, when it's time to move, I move. Because how you begin your day is how you begin your life. The strong self acts, the weak self waits. And the moment the alarm goes off, you must choose who you are. So start tomorrow by doing one difficult thing, just one. Cold water, heavy breath, focused reading, writing Stoic thoughts, physical challenge. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's hard. Because this single act, done first thing, becomes your declaration. I rule over the weak version of me, not the other way around. And with that mindset locked in, you're ready to move deeper, because next, we'll look at the silent killer of potential that disguises itself as comfort. Chapter 2. Rules of the Disciplined Mind. You've won the first battle by acting when it was hardest. Now comes the war of consistency. The weak self doesn't just show up once, it lurks in your habits, waiting for a chance to reclaim control. And it knows exactly when to strike early in the morning, when your body is stiff and your mind seeks warmth, comfort, and retreat. That's exactly why your morning must begin with discomfort, because that discomfort is your training ground. When you rise, your first action should be something that demands effort, resistance, and resolve. You must attack the comfort that your mind craves before it attacks you. Cold showers, for example, teach you to master the body's natural instinct to retreat. You feel the shock, the urge to step back, but instead, you lean in. This act isn't about hygiene, it's about dominance. It's about reminding your mind, I decide. Reading or writing philosophy sharpens your thoughts and anchors you in clarity. It keeps your mind aligned with reason, rather than emotion. You don't drift through your day reacting. You lead your day with principle. Intense morning exercise jolts your system awake. It sparks energy that surges through your body, setting the tempo for the hours ahead. This combination of body, mind, and resolve forms the morning foundation that Stoics believed separated a reactive life from a disciplined one. Because the Stoics understood something profound. Victory is not won in big, flashy moments, it's won in the small, invisible, daily decisions. And the first decision of the day, choosing discomfort over comfort, is a quiet, yet powerful, declaration. I control me. Commit to that one hard act every single morning, no matter how tired you are. No matter how loud your inner voice cries out for more rest, more ease, more delay, do it anyway. Teach your mind that when you give a command, it is not a suggestion. It's law. Then, build on this foundation. Write down the excuses that visit you most frequently. Name them. And next to each one, write a direct action that will silence it. Don't leave it to chance. Build your defense before the attack. Next, create your non-negotiable rules, not vague intentions, but specific commitments. Rules that you do not break, regardless of how you feel or what your day looks like. These rules are your fortress. They are your self-imposed structure that protects you from yourself. If you say you'll work out 5 days a week, then you do. Whether you're exhausted, overwhelmed, or unmotivated. If you say you'll read Stoic philosophy daily, then you sit down and read, even when distractions swirl around you. These are not flexible preferences. These are contracts you sign with your future self. Your weaker self will fight back. It will whisper, just skip today. One time won't hurt. That voice must be treated like a liar, because that's what it is. Every time you hold the line, every time you uphold your word, you reinforce the truth that you are in control. And slowly, this rewires your identity. You become someone who follows through, who does what he says, every time. And that is where real strength begins. Not in intensity, but in integrity. Not in hype, but in habit. The next step? Learn to see every excuse as a trigger, not for inaction, but for immediate execution. Excuses don't go away on their own. They must be confronted, instantly. When your mind says, "I'll do it later," you do it now. When it says, "I'm too tired," you move anyway. When it says, "I don't have time," you create it. That's how you break the loop. You build a reflex of decisive action, starting small if needed, but always forward. And every excuse you defeat makes the next one weaker. Over time, this becomes your edge. This becomes your power. Because when you act without hesitation, you don't just overcome resistance, you become unstoppable. And once this mindset is installed, you're ready to face the next challenge, identifying the silent traps that derail even the strongest minds. Chapter 3: Discipline over motivation. Once decisive action becomes a reflex, you stop waiting, you become someone who moves, someone who executes. And that shift? It only happens when you understand a harsh truth. Motivation is a lie. It's inconsistent, unreliable, and disappears the moment things get difficult. Motivation is like a sunny weather friend. It shows up when things are easy but vanishes the moment you need strength the most. It's a pretty illusion that convinces the undisciplined that they must feel ready before they can act. The weak version of yourself clings to this illusion. It waits around for a spark, for a good mood, for the stars to align before taking action. But the strong version? It doesn't care about how it feels, it moves because it must. The Stoics saw this clearly. They didn't wait for motivation, they built lives around discipline, around routine, around doing what must be done, especially when it was uncomfortable. Seneca once wrote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." And real preparation is a product of discipline. Not feelings, not energy levels, discipline. A disciplined person doesn't wait for external inspiration. He doesn't wake up wondering if today is a good day to try. He doesn't need a reason. He has rules. He acts with purpose, regardless of whether he's tired, bored, stressed, or uninspired. He keeps moving forward because he knows. Emotions fade, but results come from repetition. While others are pausing to get inspired, he's already halfway through his next rep, his next page, his next action. One small step after another, building up a momentum the weak can't understand. The weak self will whisper, "You've done enough. Take a break. You deserve it." It will flood your mind with excuses, disguised as logic. "You worked hard yesterday, skip today. You're not feeling it." But the strong self silences that voice with motion. It doesn't argue, it simply replies, "I don't care how I feel. I do it anyway." That's the mindset of champions in business, sports, philosophy, or life. The best performers don't wait to feel motivated. They have systems, they have codes they live by. Codes that don't bend with mood swings or external chaos. An elite athlete doesn't train only when he's excited. If he did, he'd never reach the podium. A serious writer doesn't wait to be struck by inspiration. If she did, she'd never finish a book. And a true Stoic doesn't practice virtue only when it's convenient. That would make him no different from the average man drifting through life. Discipline is a muscle. And like any muscle, it must be trained repeatedly, deliberately, and without negotiation. Miss one workout, and the next one becomes easier to skip. Procrastinate once, and avoidance starts to feel like a pattern. That pattern becomes your prison. The enemy of all growth is inconsistency. The only antidote? Building habits so solid they don't rely on feelings. You must establish rituals that make your behaviors automatic. Discipline must stop being a choice and become the default setting of your existence. When you no longer ask, "Should I?" and instead declare, "This is who I am," that's when you reclaim full power. A disciplined person doesn't spend time debating whether to train, to read, to study, or to grow. He does these things because they are part of his identity. There's no inner drama, no pause. Just movement, purpose, action. Like a warrior who sharpens his sword every morning not because there's a battle today, but because he knows the moment of truth always comes without warning. He doesn't start his day by checking if he's in the mood to train. He doesn't scan for motivation or wait for some spark of inspiration. He simply gets up and gets to work, because he knows what most people refuse to accept. Readiness is a myth. The strongest men in history didn't rise by waiting for the perfect mindset. They rose because they acted despite it. They moved forward in pain. They persisted in fatigue. They committed to excellence in the midst of chaos. And that is why they became unstoppable. You must train your mind to follow the same path. Every time you act without waiting to feel like it, you take back control. You teach yourself a powerful truth. My mind is not my master, it is my servant. This is how discipline is built, not in bursts of inspiration, but in the quiet moments where you choose action over comfort. It starts with a single decision: to move when everything in you wants to stay still. To push when your emotions beg you to stop. To rise above hesitation again and again. And those decisions, over time, they reshape who you are. You stop identifying as someone who struggles with consistency. Instead, you become someone who's defined by it. Your very identity becomes unshakable self-discipline. So stop clinging to motivation. It's not your ally, it's your excuse. Motivation is for those who wait. Discipline is for those who win. The weak remain idle, always hoping for the right feeling to appear. They say, "Maybe later, I'm not ready, tomorrow's better." But the strong? They act. They move, not because they feel powerful but because they know power is born through movement. Progress creates its own momentum. And momentum generates energy. Action begets motivation, not the other way around. So build your foundation. Establish a daily non-negotiable routine: reading, physical movement, focused work. Identify 3 areas of your life where discipline is lacking, and go to war with them. The moment your mind says, "Not now," you move now. When it whispers, "You're too tired," you double your effort. When it says, "You'll do it later," you do it immediately. Turn hesitation into your battle cry. Treat delay as a red flag, a sign that action is needed now more than ever. The more you do this, the more automatic it becomes. You'll rewire your brain to associate discomfort with movement. Resistance becomes your trigger. Delay becomes your signal to accelerate. And eventually, you'll develop a reflex. When others freeze, you move. When your old self hesitates, you execute. That is the essence of true discipline. The ability to act regardless of how you feel. The weak self stalls, argues, negotiates. But the strong self, he acts without pause, without apology, without excuse. And once you've mastered this mental discipline, it's time to face an even greater challenge. Not just embracing discomfort, but learning to treat hardship itself as your greatest ally. Chapter 4. Hardship is your ally. Discipline gives you structure, but it's hardship that gives you strength. Because once you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start acting in spite of discomfort, you're finally ready to face the real teacher, adversity. The Stoics never ran from difficulty. In fact, they leaned into it. They saw hardship not as something to avoid, but as something to embrace, a guide, not a threat. They understood that comfort breeds weakness, but challenge builds character. Hardship was their training ground, their forge, their daily sharpening stone. As Epictetus once said, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. And he was right, because there is no faster, no clearer way to reveal your inner strength than through struggle. When life is easy, there is no resistance to push against, no edge to grind your willpower on. But when things get hard, that's when your true nature shows itself. Do you crumble under pressure, or do you rise? Hardship is the forge that strengthens your spirit. It shapes you, refines you, breaks away the soft layers of comfort and reveals the steel beneath. If you avoid discomfort for too long, you don't just stay the same, you weaken. You become fragile, soft, unprepared for the storms life is guaranteed to bring. The strongest people aren't those who had smooth lives, they're the ones who were tested, challenged, pushed, and battered by life, and chose to grow stronger because of it. Every difficulty is a test, an invitation to sharpen your resolve, deepen your discipline, and rise closer to your potential. Where the weak self flinches and runs, the strong self leans in and says, "Let's go." Pain, to the weak, feels like punishment. To the strong, it's transformation. It's the cost of progress, the price of evolution. Adversity, then, becomes a gift if you choose to see it that way. It's not something meant to break you. It's something meant to reveal you. Every challenge is a mirror. It doesn't lie. It reflects back the truth, your limits, your fears, your strength, or your excuses. And the question is, will you face it or run from it? The Stoics didn't just endure suffering, they sought it. Marcus Aurelius didn't pray for an easier life, he asked for the strength to meet it. Seneca practiced voluntary hardship so that when real misfortune arrived, it would not shatter him, it would bounce off the resilience he had already built. And this is the mindset you must adopt. Don't curse difficulty, invite it. Don't resent challenge, respect it. Because every moment of pain is an opportunity to become unshakable, to strengthen your armor, to prepare for something even greater. Resilience isn't born in peace. It's forged in fire. It's built when your mind screams, "Quit," and you keep going anyway. The difference between the weak and the strong has nothing to do with talent, luck, or intelligence. It lies in one simple thing: the ability to suffer well. The strong man doesn't break under pressure. He welcomes it, because he knows every ounce of pain today prepares him for tomorrow's war. Weakness is burned away through discomfort. Confidence is carved through consistent effort. Character is sculpted through the relentless pursuit of self-mastery. Every trial you survive becomes another layer of armor. Another voice inside you that whispers, "You can take more than you thought." When life squeezes you, do you collapse? Or do you harden? When circumstances turn cruel, do you surrender? Or stand tall? Because here's the truth. Life doesn't go easy on anyone. It doesn't pause because you're tired. It doesn't care if you're afraid or unmotivated. It will test you when you least expect it, and when you're least prepared. And the only way to be ready is to train now by embracing discomfort before it's forced upon you. You don't wait for the struggle to knock on your door. You go out and meet it head-on before it arrives uninvited. Because when difficulty shows up, the strong self isn't shocked, it's ready. But the weak self, the moment things get uncomfortable, it begins to squirm. It whispers softly in your mind, "You've done enough for today. It's okay to take it easy. You don't need to push through this one." And that voice sounds reasonable, deceptively comforting. But make no mistake, that voice is sabotage in disguise. It's weakness dressed in soft words. When you hear yourself begin to justify quitting, you must interrupt that thought with action. If your body tells you something is too hard, don't back off, prove it wrong. Lean into the resistance, meet the pain with presence. Remind yourself, this is exactly where growth begins. Struggle is not a punishment, it's a portal. A passage to the next version of yourself. The man who seeks ease will never know greatness. But the man who seeks challenge will uncover a strength within that even he didn't know existed. Because real growth only occurs in one place. In the space between who you are and who you are trying to become. And that space is filled with friction. Avoid the friction, and you stay stagnant. Embrace it, and you evolve stronger, wiser, more resilient with each trial. Greatness isn't built on pleasure. It's earned in the fires of pain, refined through discomfort, and tested in adversity. You don't level up by avoiding the storm. You grow by walking straight into it, standing tall, and refusing to be moved. Let the wind rage, let the pressure rise. You are becoming unshakable. So stop seeing hardship as a curse. Start seeing it as your greatest ally, the force that burns away the weak parts of you, leaving behind only what is real, what is solid, and what cannot be broken. Let the fire mold you, Let the pressure shape you. What you gain on the other side is not just strength, it's identity. It's power. The most indestructible version of yourself isn't born in comfort, it is forged through difficulty, through endurance, and through repeated acts of choosing the hard path when the easy one is right there waiting. So endure, push through, persist. Because if you do, you will become unstoppable. And once you've built physical and mental resilience, there is another arena you must conquer, one even more dangerous if left unchecked: your emotions. Chapter 5: Mastering Your Emotions. After you've embraced hardship and built unwavering discipline, there's a subtler, more dangerous battlefield that remains: your emotions. Because the moment you let your emotions dictate your actions, you have already surrendered control. The weak self reacts without thought. It speaks out of anger and regrets it later. It makes choices based on fear, and ends up trapped. It allows sadness to morph into self-pity, building an identity rooted in pain. All because it confuses fleeting emotions with lasting truth. A weak man allows frustration to explode into aggression. He lets fear paralyze him. He allows sadness to make him stagnant. He lives in reaction, always responding, rarely choosing. But the strong self? He doesn't suppress emotions, but he refuses to be ruled by them. He pauses, reflects, and only then he takes action. He is the master of his mind, not its servant. He stands tall in emotional storms that would break lesser men. When pressure mounts, he doesn't shatter. He adjusts. He adapts with clarity and calm. True strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to feel deeply and still act with logic. It's the ability to receive the signal without obeying the impulse. Emotions are information, not instructions. The strong man takes the wisdom from every emotion, but refuses to be pulled around by them. He studies himself the way a general studies a battlefield, tracking emotional patterns, observing his fears, identifying distractions before they take root. When anger rises, he asks, "Is this justified? Is this useful? Does this serve my purpose?" If the answer is no, he does not act. Instead, he transforms that energy into focus and discipline. When fear whispers in his ear, he demands evidence. He doesn't flee, he faces it and asks, "Is this real?" If it is, he prepares. If it's not, he discards it. When anxiety clouds his mind, he doesn't surrender. He dissects the thought, he questions the logic. And only then does he choose his next step. The weak man lets emotion drag him in every direction. He's chaotic, unfocused, always at the mercy of whatever he feels. But the strong man? He understands that his mind is the only thing he truly owns, and he won't give that power away to a fleeting feeling. He trains himself daily, not just in movement, but in awareness. He builds emotional discipline the same way he builds physical strength, through practice, repetition, and conscious restraint. He becomes like a mountain unshaken by the winds of circumstance. He doesn't suppress storms, he stands through them. Because the truth is this: if you don't master your emotions, they will master you. If you don't rule your mind, something else will. There is no neutral ground. You're either the commander of your inner world or a prisoner within it. So when anger rises, take 3 deep breaths before you speak. When fear surfaces, challenge it before you believe it. When emotion stirs your judgment, pause and act from reason. Let logic lead. Let discipline anchor you. And step fully into the identity you were born to create. A man who is unshakable because he commands himself. And once you've reclaimed control of your emotions, you're ready for the next foundation of power, building self-respect through self-discipline. Chapter 6. Self-respect through self-discipline. Once you've mastered your emotions, you realize the next truth. Real confidence doesn't come from being liked, it comes from living in alignment with your values. And that kind of alignment can only be forged through one thing: discipline. A man who respects himself does not beg for validation. He does not chase approval from strangers. He does not measure his worth by how many people applaud him. Instead, he builds his identity through consistent, disciplined action, brick by brick, until no external opinion can shake the structure he has created. He knows that real value isn't assigned by others, it's built internally, day by day, through action. His self-respect comes not from compliments or praise, but from keeping his word to himself. From pushing through when no one is watching. From doing what's hard even when there's no applause. He doesn't rely on likes, comments, or attention. He doesn't let praise inflate him or criticism reduce him. His sense of self is rooted in who he is when no one is looking, not in how others perceive him. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And the weak self? It wastes time constantly. It loses hours to scrolling, to comparison, to distraction. It numbs itself with entertainment instead of building something meaningful. It becomes addicted to the dopamine hit of being seen, being noticed, being praised, even if only for a moment. But the strong self sees through that illusion. He knows that every second spent trying to impress others is a second stolen from becoming who he's meant to be. He refuses to trade long-term fulfillment for short-term attention. He doesn't chase admiration, he earns respect. Not by asking for it, not by posturing, but by becoming someone worthy of it. The disciplined man doesn't need permission to live with strength. He doesn't seek attention, he commands it through quiet excellence. He doesn't bend his character to fit in. He stands firm in his principles, even when they make him stand alone. Because he understands a powerful truth. Seeking validation is a bottomless pit. No matter how much you get, it will never feel like enough. There will always be another opinion to chase, another crowd to please, another critic to silence. But the strong man? He knows that his purpose is not to be liked by everyone but to remain true to himself. He does not need applause to keep going. He doesn't ask the world for approval to live by his own code. Instead, he pours everything he has into becoming competent, capable, unshakable. His character becomes his shield. His habits become his armor. His results speak louder than any performance ever could. So stop chasing applause. Start building yourself into someone who doesn't need it. Because when you live with self-respect, rooted in self-discipline, you free yourself from the trap of external judgment. You no longer need to explain yourself. Your actions speak clearly. Your presence alone commands respect. That is the power of a man who generates his own value. A man whose worth is not granted, it is undeniable. And once you've built that level of self-respect, the next challenge is equally critical: mastering your time before it's stolen from you. Chapter 7: The Art of Endurance. After developing true self-respect through relentless discipline, you begin to understand something powerful. You don't need external confirmation to justify your existence. You no longer depend on others to recognize your value. Why? Because you live in a way that makes your worth undeniable. The man of discipline walks his path without looking around for validation. He doesn't ask the world, "Am I enough?" He knows he is because he proves it, day after day, with his actions. He understands that strength, virtue, and discipline are not for show, they are the reward. He doesn't perform for attention. He performs because it's who he is. His worth isn't based on opinions. It's based on execution. It's reflected in how he holds himself to his own standards and how he honors his word when no one else is watching. This man doesn't look outward for reminders of his value. He looks inward to the work he does, the discipline he holds, and the persistence he shows in the face of every challenge. His confidence isn't manufactured, it's built. From sweat, from struggle, from integrity. Respect is not something he chases. He doesn't need to shout about his discipline or strength, he demonstrates them. He doesn't demand recognition, he earns it. He doesn't beg people to understand his worth. He builds a life so solid that the evidence speaks louder than words ever could. True self-respect comes from setting the bar for yourself higher than the world ever would. It comes from creating goals and refusing to let yourself off the hook until they're reached. It comes from being the kind of man who chooses the harder right over the easier wrong, especially when no one is there to applaud him for it. It's forged in private moments. When you wake up early to train while others sleep in. When you read to sharpen your mind instead of mindlessly scrolling. When you say no to weakness not because someone is watching, but because you are. The weak man craves to be seen. The strong man becomes someone worth seeing even if no one is looking. And here's what separates them most. The weak man measures himself by what others say. The strong man measures himself by what he does. A man who respects himself doesn't need permission to stand tall. He doesn't compromise who he is just to fit in. He doesn't adjust his values for applause. His integrity is non-negotiable. Because he knows chasing approval is a losing game. There will always be someone else to impress. Always another audience. Always another opinion to win over. But the strong man? He doesn't live to be liked. He lives to be authentic. He understands that the moment you allow others to define your worth, you've handed over control of your life. So instead, he focuses on becoming someone whose presence alone speaks for itself, whose focus, skills, and results demand respect without a word being spoken. To protect this identity, he eliminates what dulls his discipline. Endless scrolling that wastes time and clouds the mind. Meaningless entertainment that weakens focus. Junk food that dulls the body and spirit. And in place of those things, he creates daily rituals. Filled circle reading that sharpens the mind. Filled circle physical training that builds the will. Filled circle intentional eating that reinforces control. Filled circle deep, focused work that honors purpose. Every disciplined act deepens his self-respect. Every sacrifice strengthens his foundation. Every decision to stay the course is another quiet declaration. I don't need the world to validate me. I already know who I am. Once you've stopped seeking validation and built an inner life anchored in discipline, you're ready to confront the quiet truth. The path to greatness will test you again and again. And only through endurance, real, sustained endurance, will you rise. The man who endures doesn't just survive hardship. He adapts. He learns. He transforms. Instead of breaking under pressure, he becomes unshakable, a force of nature. Pain doesn't frighten him. It doesn't defeat him. He sees it for what it is, the toll he must pay to become the strongest version of himself. While others complain, he acts. While others shrink away from discomfort, he walks straight into it. While others beg for ease, he chooses the harder road because he knows that's where transformation lives. Hardship doesn't make him bitter. It makes him better. Each obstacle becomes a training ground. Each struggle a stepping stone. Each moment of resistance a chance to fortify his will. He doesn't aim to be untouchable. He builds himself to be unbreakable. This kind of man, one who cultivates endurance through discipline, repeated struggle, and ruthless patience, becomes truly unstoppable. His body may ache, but his spirit holds. His journey may stretch far, but his belief never wavers. He endures, and in enduring, he prevails. And this endurance isn't accidental. It's trained. It's earned. Every day, he seeks out small challenges to sharpen himself. He doesn't wait for adversity to arrive. He goes looking for it with intention. He pushes his limits physically, mentally, emotionally, not to prove anything to the world, but to evolve from the inside out. Because he knows growth doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in resistance. And mastery, that is forged in fire. He seeks daily discomfort. He chooses to learn something that scares him. He trains his body until it trembles. He puts his mind under pressure so that when the real storms come, he's ready. And when that storm hits, when chaos surrounds him, he does not panic. He observes, he adapts, he responds. He's learned that composure is not a gift, it's a discipline. While weak men react emotionally, he stays grounded. Where others scream or retreat, he remains calm, logical, alert. The more pressure he faces, the more resilience he builds. He understands that stress is not something to avoid, it's something to train with. So he deliberately puts himself in controlled discomfort. He places himself in situations that stretch his patience, test his reactions, and demand clarity under fire. Because every time he stays calm in pressure, he reinforces the muscle of stillness. And that stillness? That's where real strength lives. Not in aggression, not in loudness, but in the ability to regulate emotion when the world around you spins out of control. He doesn't crumble like the rest. He holds. And in holding, he commands respect not by force, but by presence. And that's why only the man who masters discomfort can be trusted in the storm. But there's another trial just as difficult, one that most run from. Yet every strong man must confront: solitude. Chapter 8. The Power of Solitude. After learning to remain calm in chaos and hold steady under pressure, the next challenge is not about facing the external world, it's about facing yourself. And that only happens in one place: solitude. Most people run from it. They drown it in noise. But the strong man? He walks into it and grows stronger in the silence. Because true growth isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's found in the quiet moments. When the world fades away. When the distractions disappear. When all that's left is you. Seneca once wrote, "Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and spend some time in his own company." And that truth still holds today. A man who can sit alone without reaching for a screen, a voice, a distraction is a man who has built something solid inside himself. In solitude, he dissects his fears. He confronts his weaknesses. He refines his purpose. He doesn't run from his thoughts, he explores them. He doesn't avoid silence, he masters it. Solitude is not a void. It's a mirror. It shows you exactly who you are without filters, without noise, without distractions. And most men can't bear that reflection. But the strong man? He embraces it. Because he knows, you cannot master what you refuse to face. In solitude, he sharpens his focus. He strengthens his will. He rebuilds his mental walls. He plans, he prepares, he evolves. Without moments of deep silence, a man never truly meets himself. And if he never meets himself, how can he ever master his own mind? Solitude is the training ground of the self-governed. It is where you become independent of validation. Where you stand on your own 2 feet, not needing reassurance, not needing applause. A man who has mastered solitude doesn't fear the absence of others. He finds clarity there, clarity that no crowd could ever provide. He sets his intentions with precision. He filters out what is noise from what is truth. He does not drift aimlessly, following trends or opinions. He moves deliberately, rooted in values, not reactions. He doesn't seek company to avoid his own thoughts. He doesn't need affirmation to stay focused. He is a fortress, quiet, solid, complete. The man who cannot be alone is not yet someone worth being alone with. But the man who sits calmly with his own thoughts, without fear or avoidance, has built an unshakable core. He knows who he is. He knows what he believes. He knows where he's going. And no judgment, no rejection, no criticism from the outside world can move him off his path. Solitude is where his strength is refined. It's where his strategy is drawn. It's where his vision becomes clear. This is not loneliness. It's not emptiness. It's the richest ground for building inner power. The weak man avoids solitude because he's afraid of what he'll find in the quiet. He fills every second with noise, attention, and stimulation, anything to avoid reflection. But the strong man? He dives into silence, because he knows that stillness reveals the truth. In solitude, he hardens his discipline. He separates passing emotions from enduring values. He reconnects with purpose. He listens to his deepest desires, to his truest voice beneath the surface of daily noise. A man who cannot be alone does not know himself. And a man who does not know himself is always lost. So if you want to be unbreakable, learn to sit with silence. If you want to lead, learn to lead yourself first, in solitude. If you want to own your life, learn to be alone, not as punishment, but as power. Because once you've learned to walk alone, with clarity and direction, the next challenge is this: can you walk forward with purpose, even when the path is uncertain? Chapter 9. Controlling the chaos of the mind. After discovering the quiet strength that solitude offers, you're faced with the next challenge, the battlefield within. Because once the world grows silent, your thoughts get loud. And if you cannot control your mind, no amount of discipline in the world can save you. A man who cannot master his thoughts is a slave to them. He becomes a victim of every passing fear, every fleeting doubt, every unnecessary worry. His emotions pull him in different directions. His mind becomes chaotic, a swirling storm of past regrets and imagined disasters. This is how the weak man lives. He obsesses over mistakes. He replays conversations from years ago. He spirals into anxiety over things he cannot change and things that may never even happen. His emotions dictate his actions. His thoughts shape his behavior. And the worst part? He doesn't even realize he's surrendered control. But the strong man? He takes his mind back. He refuses to be ruled by feelings. He disciplines his thinking just as a warrior sharpens his blade. Because just like the body, the mind must be trained or it will wander aimlessly. He knows, your thoughts are tools, They are not your master. So he begins the process of mental refinement. He learns to spot unproductive thoughts and cast them aside. He separates what is real from what is imagined. He practices stillness not to avoid thought, but to command it. He doesn't waste energy worrying about things outside his control. He directs that energy inward toward what he can influence. He trains his mind to be logical, deliberate, and calm even when the world around him is chaotic. Because the man who cannot command his thoughts will always be commanded by circumstance. A weak man lives inside a mental battlefield fighting shadows from the past, fears from the future, and emotions he doesn't understand. He overthinks, he hesitates, he drowns in indecision. But the strong man? He recognizes thoughts as waves, temporary, passing, and often unreliable. He doesn't suppress them. He observes them. And he decides which ones are worth keeping, and which ones must go. That's the essence of mental strength, not avoiding thoughts, but governing them. He chooses thoughts that align with his purpose. He discards those that weaken his focus. He builds a mental framework rooted in clarity, self-command, and calm precision. A man with a disciplined mind is a man no storm can shake. He doesn't drift, he directs. He doesn't react, he chooses. And he knows that every great achievement in the external world must first be conceived and conquered in the mind. He sharpens his thoughts like a blade, channeling them toward action. He sees the mind not as a prison of emotion but as a forge for greatness. He does not allow impulse to lead him astray. He doesn't let anxiety write his story. He writes it himself with intent, focus, and conviction. While the weak man's mind jumps from fear to distraction to regret, the strong man's mind is still. It's sharp, it's strategic. And from that stillness, he creates. When your mind becomes a tool instead of a tyrant, you unlock the next level of mastery, learning how to direct all of your energy toward building your highest potential. Chapter 10. Directing your energy with precision. Once you've begun to master your thoughts, you start to realize a deeper truth. Mental discipline is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Without it, no matter how smart, talented, or ambitious you are, you'll be at the mercy of your environment. A man without mental control becomes a puppet pulled in every direction by noise, emotion, distraction, and impulse. One moment he's focused, the next, he's lost. He reacts to life, instead of shaping it. But the man who builds a disciplined mind, he becomes unstoppable. He doesn't wait for life to go his way. He makes life move in the direction of his will. Because here's the truth. The mind is either your greatest ally or your most dangerous enemy. If left untamed, it will sabotage you in silence. It will whisper doubts, manufacture fears, and provide endless excuses that feel just logical enough to obey. It will paralyze you with overthinking. It will convince you to delay, to wait, to stop trying right when you're closest to the breakthrough. But if trained, if sharpened, molded, and commanded with discipline. Your mind becomes your greatest weapon. It can cut through fear. It can silence distraction. It can carry you through the worst of storms without losing direction. Mastering your mind means understanding one thing clearly. Thoughts alone do not define you. Your actions do. The weak man lets emotion lead him. He seeks comfort. He avoids discomfort. He tells himself stories that justify inaction. It's too hard. I'm not ready. Maybe later. But the strong man? He welcomes struggle not because he enjoys pain, but because he understands. Struggle is the price of greatness. He knows the mind, like any muscle, must be worked daily. So he gets to work. He cuts distractions. He harnesses energy and refuses to let negativity have the final word. He knows every moment of mental discipline fortifies his future. Because the path to greatness doesn't just run through victories and trophies. It runs through silence, through internal confrontation, through the daily choice to rise above the chaos in your own mind. And every day, this man meets the same enemies. The temptation to quit. The lure of comfort. The whisper of self-doubt. But he doesn't crumble. He doesn't retreat. He chooses action over hesitation. He chooses command over confusion. He wins internally long before he ever wins on the outside. The man who conquers his own mind becomes unshakable. He's no longer a slave to fear or distraction. He is the master. And with that mastery comes a power that no one can take from him. So he strengthens his mind. Filled circle through daily reflection. Filled circle through mindfulness, observing thoughts without becoming them. Filled circle through replacing negative loops with sharp affirmations of strength, clarity, and control. Because a disciplined mind is a weapon, one that never dulls with age. One that no storm can break. And when that weapon is sharpened, he is ready to enter life with a new identity, not as a civilian, but as a warrior. Chapter 11. The Warrior's Mentality. After taking control of the mind, a man must now adopt a new identity, not just as a thinker or a doer, but as a warrior, because life isn't kind to those who are mentally unarmed, and survival alone is never the goal. The goal is to thrive through the fire. To think like a warrior is to remove retreat from the equation. The average man folds when failure strikes. He sees setbacks as a signal to stop, a verdict that says, "You're not good enough." He lets small defeats infect his confidence, whispering that he was never meant to succeed in the first place. But the warrior? He sees failure for what it truly is: feedback. Not final, not fatal, just feedback. Every failure is fuel. Every loss is instruction. Every setback is a sharpening stone that hones his resolve. He doesn't crumble under challenge, he tightens his stance. He doesn't flinch in the face of discomfort, he welcomes it as part of his transformation. This man knows the truth. The real battle is internal. It's not against the world, or the competition, or even fate. It's a war against doubt, against hesitation, against the seductive pull of comfort. And he's already won because his mindset is immovable. His will is tougher than steel. His discipline is his armor. And his resolve? Unshakable. He accepts the price of greatness struggle and pays it daily, without complaint. He doesn't fantasize about victory. He builds it, brick by brick, through consistent action. He doesn't wait for perfect conditions. He creates them through effort. When others daydream about strength, he works until it's his baseline. When others pray for ease, he prays for endurance. He asks not for a lighter load, but for a stronger back. The warrior relies on nothing but his discipline, his endurance, and his refusal to break. He doesn't chase shortcuts. He doesn't sit around waiting for luck to arrive. He becomes his own advantage. This mentality isn't just about winning battles, it's about becoming someone who cannot be defeated. He knows that real victory isn't in a single moment of triumph, it's in the refusal to stay down after each fall. Strength is not gifted, it's built. It's cultivated. It's earned. Every obstacle is a test. Every test is an invitation to rise. Every painful step forward is another layer added to the warrior's unshakable core. And when others retreat, he advances. When they freeze in fear, he steps into the fire. He isn't reckless, but he is relentless. He doesn't seek comfort, he seeks transformation. He doesn't hope for a smooth path, he demands to become strong enough for the rough one. Pain is not his enemy, it's his instructor. Discomfort is not a curse, it's his companion. Discipline is not a burden, it's his shield. Because the warrior's greatest weapon is not brute strength. It's not speed, or size, or skill. It's his refusal to be broken. It's the inner declaration that no matter what life throws at him, he will endure. He will adapt, and he will overcome. He doesn't just survive. He conquers. The warrior never prays for an easier road. He prepares for the hardest one and marches forward with purpose. And as the body follows the mind, the next step is clear. The warrior trains not just mentally but physically. Because a strong mind must be housed in a strong vessel. Chapter 12. The Legacy of Strength. After living with the mindset of a warrior, unbreakable, focused, and forged in fire, comes the final realization. Your life is not only about you. It's about what you leave behind. It's about legacy. A true warrior does not fight merely for today. He fights for what will remain tomorrow. He understands that every battle he wins, every obstacle he overcomes, every sacrifice he makes echoes beyond his lifetime. Because greatness is not forged in ease. It's forged in the quiet, relentless struggle of a man who dares to rise when others fall. Weak men leave nothing behind but whispers of regret. They waste years chasing comfort, consumed by distractions and momentary pleasures. They drift through life passively, hoping that time alone will somehow grant them meaning. But time is indifferent. It honors only the man who uses it with intention. Seneca once said, "Life is long if you know how to use it." And that's the dividing line between the weak and the strong. The weak man treats time as if it's endless. He lives in delay, convinced that tomorrow will always come. He mistakes idleness for peace, comfort for fulfillment. He chases applause, validation, and shallow status, never realizing that these things fade as fast as they arrive. But the strong man? He lives differently. He sees time as his most valuable weapon. He doesn't spend it, he invests it. Not in fleeting pleasures, but in lasting growth. Not in approval, but in excellence. His life is built with intention, every action grounded in principle, every choice aligned with purpose. He does not live to impress the crowd. He lives to fulfill his potential. He does not waste time proving his worth. He becomes someone whose worth is undeniable. And when he wakes each day, he remembers that legacy is built brick by brick in the unseen hours of discipline, in the lonely moments of sacrifice, in the hundreds of decisions made when no one is watching. He trains. He studies. He leads. And most importantly, he lives as an example. Because legacy is not about fortune. It's not about fame. It's not about followers or accolades. It's about impact. It's about the people you inspire, the values you represent, the principles you defend even when they cost you something. It's about being the kind of man that others can look to and say, "That is how you live with strength. That is what integrity looks like." And when the end comes, because it will, he doesn't flinch. He does not fear death. He does not look back in regret. He doesn't ask, "What if I had tried?" Because he knows he did. He lived fully. He fought boldly. He gave everything. And in doing so, he became immortal through impact. His name may one day fade, but his influence will not. Because he has etched his values into the lives he touched, the words he spoke, the example he set. He didn't just pass through life, he left a mark. He lived not as a spectator, but as a force of nature. So if you wish to be remembered, do not chase comfort. Do not waste another moment waiting for the right time. Do not live as a lesser version of who you know you can become. Instead, rise. Lead. Discipline yourself. Sharpen your mind. Refine your soul. Be the example. Be the outlier. Be the man that others remember, not because you demanded attention, but because you embodied purpose. Because in the end, it's not the man with the most toys who wins. It's the man who lived with the most intention. You are not here to be ruled by weakness. You are not here to drown in doubt or disappear into mediocrity. You are here to rise, to fight, to become. Kill the weak version of yourself. And from its ashes, forge the strongest version of the man you were destined to be. Don't wait, don't hesitate, begin, now. You've just walked through the mindset, the habits, and the fire it takes to become unstoppable. But none of it matters unless you act. The path to mastery isn't walked by those who merely listen. It's walked by those who rise every day and do what must be done no matter how they feel. So the question now is simple. Will you let this message fade into background noise? Or will this be the moment that everything changes? Because if something in you stirred, if a voice inside whispered, "This is who I must become," then don't just nod, don't just agree. Decide, commit, move. And if you want to keep sharpening your mindset, building unshakable discipline, and learning how to dominate life with stoic strength, then make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. We're just getting started. Every week, we dive deeper into the tactics and mental armor that forge real greatness. No fluff, no hype, just the truth and the tools to become the man you were born to be. Follow, subscribe, rise. Let's build the strongest version of you together.